Okay, in the chapter number system, our second property is the associative property. If you have watched the first video on the commutative property, then you might know up till now that property is something which is valid every time. Okay, and in number system, we deal with the numbers with along with the operators. Okay, so its number system is when we have this combination. We see that how numbers react when we have different operators. Okay, so the second property is the associative property. So if you have watched the commutative property, associative property is very easy. It is same as commutative property with a very slight difference. So first let's start off with the terminology. So associative, the term associative is taken from the word associate, and the word associate means group or grouping. So what do? We group things here. Okay, so we always group when we have things which are in larger quantity. So if we have two numbers, for example 2 plus 4, we don't need to group, do we? No. But if we have more than two, for example 2 plus 4 plus 1, then to make things easy, we first treat the two numbers and then we treat the third one, right? So this is basically grouping. So it makes our job easy. As we have studied that in commutative property, order does not matter. And we have also studied that we have two operators, that is addition and multiplication, in which order does not matter. That means the way you add them or the way you multiply them, it always produces the same result. Okay, the third thing we have studied about commutative property, that it deals with two numbers at the same time, right? So when we are dealing with two numbers, we talk about the commutative property. Now there is a slight difference. As I said, that if you know the commutative property, you know the associative property. So these two things remain same in the associative property. That means, and here as well, order does not matter, it doesn't affect the result, right? But the only condition which is different, that is this one. Okay, when we talk about associative property, we are dealing with more than two operands. Operands are the numbers or the variables that are multiplied or added or being operated. Okay, so when we are dealing with more than two elements or operands, then we talk about associative property. So it has made our job easier. We are just going to see in addition and multiplication, because associative property, since it is same as commutative property, so as commutative property is not valid in division and in subtraction, so associative property is also not valid for subtraction and division. It only works in addition and multiplication. So we are just going to see in these two operations. Okay, so let's first see associative property in terms of addition. Okay, as I said that it is the property which comes into play when we have more than two operands. So let's suppose we have elements or operands 2, 1, 3. All right, and the operation between them is plus, right? And let's see how we do it. Now, there could be two ways for it. The one way could be we first add these first two numbers, have a result, and whatever the result may be, we add into the third one. Okay, so this is one of the ways. So let's first do this way. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Whatever our answer is, that is 3, we add this into the third one, which is 3 again, so it would be 6. So this was option 1, right? Now let's see option 2. Option 2, let's say 2 plus 1 plus 3. Now here, instead of adding these two, we are first adding these two, right? So by adding these two, we'll come up with 4, and then we add the third one, which is 2. So it would be 6. Now you can see whether we add this way by grouping these two first and then adding into third one, or by grouping these two and then adding into third one. That means the way we group here does not matter, right? It always produces the same result. So here in this case, we can say here the way we group, the associative property is related to grouping. Grouping doesn't matter. And if doesn't matter, that means the order of the numbers and the way they are being operated, it's not affecting the result, then we can say that associative property is valid. So in case of addition, it is valid. You can now, let's write it generically. So let's suppose we have three numbers a, b, c. So a plus b plus c, and again here we have three numbers on this side. So whether you add a plus b before and then you add into the third one, or you add b plus c first then you add into the a, it's equal. It does not affect the result. So this is the general way of writing this property in addition. So we can say this is the associative property with respect to addition, because here we have plus as our operator. So associative property of addition or with respect to addition. Okay, now let's consider multiplication. The same numbers 2, 1, 3, but now in between we have multiplication as our operator, right? So let's first here multiply these two. Let's group them and multiply these two for our convenience. So when we multiply these two, we'll come up with 2, and then multiplying with the third one, which is 3. So it gives us 2 into 3 is 6. So this was option number 1. This was option 1. Option 2 is we have again the same numbers, and instead of first two, okay, we are grouping the last two. So 2 into 3 into 1 is 3, so it makes 3 into 6. There could be more option. If you see, we have another option, option 3, which is first multiplying 2 into 3, then adding and multiplying with 1, right? So 2 into 3 is 6, into 1 it also produces 6. So we have come up with this observation: the way we group the elements or operands while we are multiplying, the way we multiply does not matter, the way we group elements does not matter. It always produces the same result. So associative property, this is known as associative property of multiplication. Since we have multiplication as our operator, now let's make it in a general form. So we have three elements, A into B into C, and here as well A into B into C. So it does not matter if you multiply A with B first, then multiply with C. It is equal to multiplying B with C and then multiplying it with A. So it is same. So now let's have a quick summary. So associative, the word associative is taken out from the word associate, okay, which means group, and this property has to do with group. So it says that if the way you are grouping elements does not alter, does not change the result, if you always come up with same result by doing different type of grouping, then associative property is valid. It okay, and it deals with more than two elements, more than two elements. If it's two elements, then it's a commutative property, and if it's more than two elements, the same commutative property transforms into the associative property. So you can say it's a higher level of commutative property. So associative property of addition is A plus B plus C. If you add A plus B and add the result of A plus B into C, it's equal or it's same as adding B and C first and then adding into A. Okay, so associative property is valid in addition. So this is known as associative property of addition. In subtraction, it is not valid because it is change. The way you group matters, the way you place elements matter in subtraction, so associative property is not valid. In multiplication, it is valid, and it can be written generically as this way. So if you multiply A into B, then multiply with C, it is same as multiplying B and C first and multiplying result with A. And in division, it is not valid because in division, the way you place elements matters and it alters the result. I hope that up till now you have a clear idea what is associative property. Let's do a little bit of practice. Now let's do a little bit practice. Okay, so now you have to name the property. Of course, we are doing the associative property, so by now you know that it involves three elements, more than two elements, so this is associative. But there is a proper way of writing the name of property. So here you first have to see that what operation is there. So this is the addition operation, as you can see. Okay, so you can, and there are three elements. Okay, the first thing, the second observation is that there are three elements, and you can see that there is a grouping, and grouping is shown by parenthesis, right? So you can also verify it by doing the addition or multiplication on both sides, right? So 6 plus 3 is 9, 9 plus 2 is 11, right? Here as well, 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11, right? So yes, it is valid. That means the way we group does not matter, it produces the same result. You can write it as associative property of addition. Since addition is the main operator, now let's come on the second one. Here you can see we have multiplication as our operator, right? So multiplication is shown by this sign as well as this sign, so this is same. And you know that associative property is valid for multiplication because the way we group and multiply, it does not matter. So here the grouping is different, but the operation is valid. So associative property of multiplication. Now if you see the third one is 6 minus 2, which is this is the first group. So 6 minus 2 is 4 minus 3, right? and you come up 4 minus 3 is 1, right? And here on this side, if the first, this is the first thing to be done, so 2 minus 3 is minus 1. We have minus 6, so 6 minus minus plus, it would be 7 on this side. So this is not valid, right? This is not valid, and we know that associative property of subtraction is not valid. So this is how we properly write the name of property, right? We write the name of the property and the name of operator on which that property is valid, right? So this is how we write it. I hope that you have understood this property. I hope that now you have understood. Have a happy learning. Try out the worksheet which is given below and check your understanding. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.